It was a winter evening, when the whole village seemed wrapped in a blanket of white snow. Icicles clung to the old rooftops, and every breath dissolved into the frosty mist. The streets were silent, broken only by the distant echo of a stray dog barking somewhere far away. At the corner of that street, near a worn-out wall, sat a little boy. His red jacket was old and torn, barely shielding him from the bitter wind. His boots were soaked with melted snow, his small hands trembling as he wrapped his arms tightly around his knees. He sat with his head bowed, as if the world had forgotten his very existence. The boy's name was Ahmed, though the villagers rarely used it. To them, he was simply the orphan. Life had been cruel. No parents to hold him, no home to keep him warm. By day, he wandered the streets, sometimes washing dishes at tea stalls, sometimes carrying wood for a few coins. By night, he found himself back on this same cold corner, lost in the shadows of his loneliness. That evening, as his eyes traced the ground, he heard a faint sound of paws pressing softly into the snow. He lifted his gaze to find a small puppy standing before him. Its fur was golden, its eyes wide and searching, eyes that carried the same hunger and wandering sorrow Ahmed's own eyes held. For a moment, boy and pup stared at one another. Ahmed slowly stretched out his trembling hand. The little dog hesitated, stepping back slightly, then, as if surrendering to the quiet kindness in Ahmed's face, it moved closer. That moment was like a candle lit in the middle of a storm. Neither spoke, neither moved much, but in their silence, a new story began to breathe. The evening deepened into night, and the cold grew harsher. The snowflakes fell thicker now, covering the ground in silence. Ahmed shivered, pulling his thin jacket tighter around him. Hunger gnawed at his stomach, but it was the loneliness that hurt more than the cold. The puppy, sensing the boy's misery, whined softly and inched closer. Its small body trembled too, but its presence carried warmth, a warmth Ahmed hadn't felt in years. With hesitation, he let the pup climb into his lap. For the first time in a long while, his lips curved into a faint smile. Ahmed whispered into the night, his voice broken but tender. "You're just like me, aren't you? No one to belong to, no one to care for you." The puppy tilted its head, as if it understood. Then it licked Ahmed's cold fingers, its eyes shining with a loyalty that asked for nothing in return. They stayed that way for hours, two lost souls huddled together against the merciless winter. The boy leaned his head back against the wall, his body exhausted from the day's wandering. The dog nestled close, curling against his chest, its heartbeat syncing with his. For the first time, Ahmed did not feel entirely alone. The village slept, unaware of the fragile bond being woven under the silent snowfall. No warm fire, no soft bed, no mother's lullaby, just a boy and a stray pup, sharing their pain, their warmth, and their unspoken promise. "From now on, we'll face the world together." And under the silver moonlight, their story quietly took root. The first light of dawn crept over the snow-covered rooftops, painting the world in pale shades of gold and silver. Ahmed stirred awake, stiff and aching from the cold night. He blinked against the soft light, then felt the small weight against his chest. The puppy was still curled up in his arms, its breathing slow and steady, its tiny body warm like a fragile ember against the freezing air. Ahmed sat up slowly, careful not to wake it. For a long moment, he just stared at the pup's innocent face. Something stirred inside him, a feeling he hadn't allowed himself to believe in for years. Responsibility, belonging, hope. The puppy opened its eyes and looked at him, tail wagging weakly. Ahmed smiled. "You stayed," he whispered. His voice cracked, but there was wonder in it. "You didn't leave me." He reached down and touched the ground where the snow had gathered. His hands were red and raw from the frost. He had nothing to give. No food, no shelter, no warm blanket. Yet the little dog had chosen to stay. That morning, Ahmed made a decision. Perhaps the world had taken everything from him, but it had also given him this one life to protect. "You're mine now," he said softly, running his hand over the puppy's head. "And I'll take care of you, even if I have nothing." The dog barked once, a sharp, joyful sound that seemed to echo through the still streets. It was as if the universe had sealed their promise. Ahmed stood, clutching the puppy against his chest, and began to walk. His stomach was empty, his body weak, but his heart carried a new strength. For the first time, His steps had a purpose beyond survival. The boy and the puppy, two forsaken souls, had found each other. And together, they would fight the world. By midday, the snow had slowed, but the cold was sharper than ever. Ahmed walked through the village with the puppy tucked beneath his jacket, its little head poking out, eyes wide with curiosity. The boy's stomach churned with hunger. He hadn't eaten since the day before, and even then, it had only been stale bread given by a kind baker's wife. The puppy whined softly, and Ahmed knew the little creature was just as hungry. He knocked on a door, timidly. An old man answered, his face hard and impatient. "What do you want?" Ahmed lowered his eyes. "Just a piece of bread, sir. For me, and for him." He tilted his head to show the small golden puppy. The man scoffed. "Another stray. You can barely feed yourself. Throw it away." And he slammed the door shut. Ahmed stood there, silent, the rejection pressing into his chest like ice. The puppy whimpered, burying its nose into Ahmed's jacket. For a moment, the boy's resolve wavered. Maybe the man was right. Maybe keeping the pup was impossible. But then he remembered the warmth of last night, the way the puppy had stayed beside him when the world turned its back. He crouched low, whispering, "Don't listen. You're mine. I won't leave you." He continued to wander, asking here and there, facing cold stares and harsh words. Some gave him nothing, others cursed him for begging. At last, near the edge of the market, a woman with kind eyes handed him a small crust of bread. "It's not much," she said, "but share it with your little friend." Ahmed's throat tightened. "Thank you," he whispered. He sat on a cold stone bench, broke the bread into 2 uneven pieces, and gave the larger one to the puppy. Watching it eat, tail wagging with pure joy, filled him with a strange peace. His own hunger still burned, but he smiled anyway. That night, as they curled together beneath the stars, Ahmed realized something profound. Survival wasn't just about food or warmth. It was about belonging. And even in the harshest winter, belonging gave him strength. The days that followed blurred together, each one as cold and hungry as the last. Ahmed and the puppy became inseparable. Wherever Ahmed went, the pup followed, a shadow of loyalty, wagging its tail despite the hardships. At night, they shared the same patch of ground, curling into each other for warmth. In the mornings, Ahmed would whisper to it, as though it could understand every word. "You're all I have now, and I won't let anything take you away." But the world was not kind. One evening, as the snow turned the streets silver under the pale moon, Ahmed wandered toward the marketplace, hoping to find scraps. Before the stalls closed, he crouched near a cart, where a few wilted vegetables had been tossed aside. As he reached out, a rough voice growled behind him. "What do we have here?" "The orphan thief." Ahmed froze. It was Kareem, a large boy from the village, 2 years older but cruel and feared. He was never alone. Tonight, 2 of his friends stood at his side, grinning. "I wasn't stealing," Ahmed stammered. "I was just..." But Kareem had already noticed the puppy. He smirked. "So that's why you've been begging more than usual. You waste food on this mutt." He stepped closer, his shadow falling across Ahmed and the dog. "Dogs don't belong here. I'll take it off your hands." Ahmed's heart thudded. He pulled the puppy close, hiding it against his chest. "No, he's mine." The older boy laughed, a cruel sound. "Yours. You can't even feed yourself." He reached out, trying to grab the pup. The dog whimpered, pressing deeper into Ahmed's arms. Something inside Ahmed snapped. He shoved Kareem's hand away, his small voice sharp and trembling. "Don't touch him." For a moment, even Kareem was surprised. Then his grin returned, darker now. He grabbed Ahmed by the collar and pushed him back against the frozen wall. "You think you can fight me, Orphan?" The puppy barked, a tiny, desperate sound, and wriggled free, nipping Kareem's leg. The older boy yelped in pain, stumbling back. His friends laughed at him, and in that instant, Ahmed grabbed the puppy and ran. He didn't stop, not until his lungs burned and his legs felt like ice. Only when he collapsed near the edge of the forest did he dare to look back. The puppy licked his face, tail wagging as though nothing had happened. Ahmed's body shook with fear, but his heart swelled with fierce pride. "See," he whispered between ragged breaths. "We'll protect each other, no matter what." Under the watchful stars, the boy and his dog sealed their first true promise. not even the cruelty of the world would tear them apart. The next morning arrived heavy with frost, painting every branch and rooftop in white. Ahmed awoke beneath an abandoned wooden shed on the edge of the forest. The puppy was curled against him, its fur damp from the night air, but its little body radiated warmth like a living blanket. Ahmed rubbed his hands together, trying to bring life back into his numb fingers. His stomach groaned with emptiness. He glanced at the puppy, who wagged its tail eagerly, still full of trust. "We'll find something," Ahmed whispered, though he had no idea how. He wandered back toward the village streets. Every step was slower now, his legs weak, his chest heavy. He felt the stares of villagers as he passed, some filled with pity, others with annoyance. He had grown used to those eyes, but today they cut deeper. At the bakery, the scent of warm bread hit him like a wave. His throat ached. He stood outside, watching through the frosted window as families bought loaves, their hands wrapped in gloves, their laughter fogging the glass. The puppy whimpered. Ahmed bent down, whispering, "I know, you're hungry too." Just then, the door creaked open. The baker's wife, a middle-aged woman with kind, tired eyes, stepped out holding a small paper bag. She looked at Ahmed for a long moment, then crouched down so her eyes met his. "You again," she said softly. "You don't give up, do you?" Ahmed bit his lip. "It's not for me, it's for him." He nodded toward the puppy, who tilted its head, tail wagging. The woman's expression softened. She opened the bag and pulled out a small roll of bread, still warm. "Then share it, both of you." Ahmed's hands shook as he took it. "Thank you," he whispered, voice breaking. She placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "The world can be cruel, child. But, sometimes, it remembers how to be kind." Ahmed nodded, though his eyes blurred with tears. He broke the bread in half, giving the larger piece to the puppy, who devoured it happily, crumbs falling into the snow. Ahmed took his smaller portion, chewing slowly, tasting warmth for the first time in days. That night, lying again beneath the shed, Ahmed stroked the puppy's fur and whispered, "See. Not everyone turns away. Maybe we still have a chance." The dog rested its head on his chest, as if agreeing. And for the first time, Ahmed drifted into sleep not with fear, but with the fragile glow of hope. The air grew heavier with each passing day. Clouds hung low, thick and gray, swallowing the sky as though preparing to unleash something merciless. Ahmed sensed it coming, the way the cold bit sharper, the way the birds had gone silent. By evening, the storm arrived. Winds howled through the narrow village streets, lifting snow into blinding swirls. The puppy whimpered as Ahmed clutched it beneath his jacket, his small body bracing against the force of nature itself. The shed by the forest, their fragile shelter, shook violently as the storm pounded against it. Snow forced its way through the cracks in the wood, and the icy gust stung Ahmed's face. He pressed the puppy close, whispering, "Hold on, we'll make it through. I promise." But promises did not warm frozen bones. Hours dragged on. The storm showed no mercy. Ahmed's fingers grew numb, his lips cracked from the cold. The puppy shivered uncontrollably, its little breaths quick and shallow. Panic clawed at Ahmed's chest. He knew they couldn't survive here much longer. Gathering what courage he had left, he wrapped the puppy in his jacket and stumbled out into the storm. Snow stung his eyes, the wind roared in his ears, but he pressed forward, step after agonizing step. His mind screamed at him to stop, to curl up in the snow and surrender, but each time he faltered, he felt the tiny heartbeat against his chest. That fragile rhythm gave him strength. At last, through the blur of white, Ahmed saw a faint light flickering in the distance. A lantern, swinging in the storm. A cottage stood beyond, its chimney releasing a thin thread of smoke. He staggered toward it, every step heavier than the last. By the time he reached the door, his body trembled violently. He knocked weakly, then collapsed against the wooden frame. The door creaked open. A man's voice, rough but startled, shouted, "Who's there?" He looked down to see the boy and the bundle in his arms, the orphan and his dog. The last thing Ahmed remembered was the warmth spilling from that doorway as the world turned black around him.